Terima kasih Pak Hidayat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh kepada semua.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam, Pak.
Waktu masih awal ya. Semoga puasanya lancar aja sampai buka nanti.
Amin.
Ya, coba saya saya aktivasi slide saya dulu. Tapi di sana sudah kelihatan ya slide saya?
Belum kayaknya, Pak.
Belum ya?
Belum, Prof.
Belum muncul, Pak.
Belum.
Coba, ya,
Ya, jelas,
sudah
Pak.
muncul ya. Oke, di
Sudah,
full
sekarang
screen.
sudah.
Udah.
Coba di full screen kan? Ya,
Itu
oke.
keluar muncul.
Ya, oke. Jadi nanti saya kasih cue ya. Saya kasih cue untuk next. Begini ya, Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu sekalian. Saya memilih untuk mendeliver presentasi saya dalam bahasa Inggris karena ya maklum saja bahasa pertama saya bahasa Inggris. Jadi takut nanti kalau saya bicara bahasa Indonesia karena sudah setahun meninggalkan Indonesia ya nanti takut kurang paham. Jadi lebih baik saya mendeliver pakai bahasa Inggris saja ya. Jadi nanti kalau di sesi tanya jawab, kalau ada pertanyaan itu bebas saja bisa di bahasa Indonesia. Begitu ya. Baik. Kalau kita bicara tentang future ya, future supply chain management ini, most of us ya, ini have been around long enough to remember when people used to talk about supply chain 2020. Masih ingat nggak? Supply chain 2020. Seolah-olah it was something in the distant future. Waktu kita di 2020 itu, ya. Tapi unfortunately it's here. And I want to talk now maybe about supply chain 2040. But before we do that, let's start by talking about if the past vision of supply chain 2020 actually materialized in the way we thought it was going to. Jadi in the world of supply chain, I think it's interesting because if you go back to the turn of the century, we were talking about, and already we have done a lot of what is actually happening today. For example, the internet, it was coming on big. So it wasn't, during those days, it wasn't quite cloud computing that we see today, but we do know that all that data was being stored. Now, in the early days, we also had robotics, we had machine learning, we had artificial intelligence, and we had warehouse management systems and a relatively sophisticated supply chain. But I think what's different 20 years later, okay, is that everything is anchored in. Ya, semua yang diprediksi itu sudah melabuh. It's become a reality. Ya. And we're still talking about what is the future of those things. But we've actually seen apa yang positif, ya, and productivity that have come about to our lives. Jadi kalau kita lihat itu memang sudah ada prediksi, sudah ada janji-janji sebelumnya ya. There was a promise and now it's really actually happening. Jadi harapan kita ini prediksi yang saya akan tampilkan ini bisa menjadi realitas juga. You remember ya, how we used to talk about the end-to-end supply chain. Ya, tadi Pak Airo pun ada reference ya ke end-to-end supply chain. The beauty is people are still talking about it now. They are talking about end-to-end supply chain. Berarti itu ada kesenjangan di situ. Ya. Now, the question is, do we actually now have an end-to-end supply chain? Certainly, 20 years ago, we don't have it. Yeah. So, sebenarnya we were talking about the right things. And I think we are much closer to having this so-called end-to-end supply chain. Tapi belum begitu real lah, ya. I think kalau kita bicara tentang end-to-end supply chain itu visibility, ya, visibilitas itu masih menjadi masalah besar di banyak perusahaannya. I think what has probably transformed the most is how global supply chains have changed since the turn of the millennium. Kalau before 2020 itu 10 tahun atau 20 tahun sebelumnya itu tidak begitu global, tapi sekarang sangat global. So now with what we are looking at today, especially dengan ini corona ini, you know, and also geopolitical threats and other things, people are starting to look at their global supply chains a little differently. Nah, itu sangat real, ya. Some of them are already reshifting countries of origin. Sourcing-nya sudah berubah. Dia mulai memikir secara strategis. Apakah ini baik untuk masa depan atau tidak. And kalau kita bicara tentang artificial intelligence dan robotics, ya sebenarnya ada concern, ya. Ada concern yang hal-hal itu bisa merubah cara kita bekerja. Tapi I don't think it's so much that people have to be worried about robots replacing their jobs as much as you know, because they are doing relatively menial jobs yang membebaskan kita sebagai individu untuk menjadi lebih kreatif and to look at what next 20 years is going to be. So I cannot think of any time in history when technology actually pull back. A time when teknologi bilang yang kita bilang, oh teknologi nggak cocok buat kita, jadi kita nggak mau pakai, gitu ya. Sebenarnya apa yang terjadi is that, you know, technology comes along, kita memakainya, and then we move forward. Yeah, nobody says we change our mind about that particular aspect of technology. So we are moving forward. Dan seperti itu, hal-hal yang terkait AI, robotik, machine learning itu juga akan, menurut saya, ya, move forward as we go along. But one thing I think that maybe have changed in 20 years. Nah, ini penting sekali, ya. Apa yang sudah berubah itu adalah profil seorang professional supply chain. Itu sudah berubah secara drastis. For example, what is it that's required to do your job today as a supply chain professional? How do you think that's changed? Kalau saya lihat ini, there has been leaps and bounds made in the last 20 years in the supply chain as a profession. Jadi kalau saya lihat sekarang, people are looking at senior vice presidents of supply chain to be the next CEOs. Question is, kalau di Indonesia ini ada nggak posisi SVP supply chain, gitu kan? Whereas before that they used to all come from the financial area, orang-orang finance yang menjadi SVP atau CEO. Tapi sekarang, okay, they are so process oriented, but certainly they don't come from supply chain. And I also think that one of the things you see in the future is that supply chains are going to be used as a profit center. Now, ini sangat menarik. Supply chain menjadi satu profit center. And that's something that is, ramai orang tidak membicarakan itu. But realitasnya ini sedang terjadi. Okay? It is happening, and so that's pretty exciting for me. Who, you might ask, is profiting from the supply chain? Ya, sudah tentu shippernya, ya. In other words, you're getting more money out of their supply chain they're putting into it. And not just more money, but leveraging aset-aset yang idle itu, yang mereka punya itu, untuk create new value for themselves. Ini nanti saya akan bicara sedikit tentang ini, ya. Ini adalah fenomena baru yang saya lihat sedang berkembang, ya, especially after this COVID-19. Jadi banyak sekali perusahaan-perusahaan yang punya spare capacity itu, mereka mulai bertanya ya, dia mulai introspeksi, ini kita punya spare capacity mau bikin apa? So what they do is they offer their capacity for sale. Now ini membutuhkan satu anjakan paradigma yang cukup kalau menurut saya. So that's interesting. Okay. Jadi kita lihat sekarang kompleksitas di global world ini sudah meningkat. It's increasing awareness to questions about supply chain risk, ya, risiko di rantai pasokan. Jadi every supply chain executive ini menjadi satu poin yang sangat penting buat mereka. Okay, so today tell me a little bit of how the concept of risk has changed and what it means to us today from a supply chain perspective. Dari sudut supply chain itu, apa itu risk? Seperti apa itu? Sejauh mana kita sudah memikirkan tentang risiko, especially in this day of uncertainty. Kalau menurut saya, I think we are a lot more aware. Kita lebih aware ya tentang risiko ini in which we are living, and I think executives are doing much better job at combating that risk and mitigating it. And I think that we can use tools like visibility and predictive analytics, yeah, visibility and predictive analytics to decide what are the risks that are going to come. We make decisions that we need to make before we are responding to a crisis. So I think that, you know, as we continue, we're always going to be global. Yeah, supply chains itu sangat global. It's all over the world, you know. And I think that strategic vision and making the right decisions with the right data and information is very important. But sometimes ya, saya mikirkan ini ya. I wonder if the supply chains have learned lessons from the past. Kan dulu kan coronavirus ini bukan new ya. Like sekarang we have coronavirus, it's causing an incredible disruption in supply chains. But earlier in this decade, remember kita punya SARS ya. Itu ada SARS itu, krisis SARS dulu. You would think that we would have learned from that. Okay, dari tsunami, dari banjir, dari apa itu volcanoes, other types of disruptions. Dan ramai yang bertanya kepada saya, ini kenapa kita belum ngerti ya? We have never understood our lessons from the past. Halo? Bisa saya lanjutkan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. People have asked me whether they've learned lessons, okay, from the disasters of the past, or ini harus sentiasa get hammered into them every time and again. Yeah, unfortunately, if you ask me, that is the case. Orang-orang ini harus diperingatkan, ya, they have to be hammered, and karena I think executives are a little bit short-sighted in not looking at it. If the crisis ini tidak real, it's not happening now, they don't bother. Karena what they are saying that, well, there's no real need to look at it. So I think they can fall into that trap. So again, you know, be strategic and looking long-term and having the right analytics to really assess the risk, and also looking at, you know, where your supplies are, where they are all coming from. You can't be too dependent on one single country or geography. Yeah. So I hope ini sebagai backdrop ya, latar belakang where we to find out where we were and serve as a sort of intro as to what the future is going to shape up for us. Ya. Jadi begini ya, saya rasa presentasi saya tidak akan memakan waktu sampai 1 jam 30 menit ya. Jadi kalau ada question mungkin nanti kita ada alokasi ya, waktu yang lebih panjang untuk kita berdiskusi dulu. Jadi izinkan saya untuk langsung cover materi saya dulu ya. Jadi next slide. Seperti saya katakan tadi, there has never been a more challenging time. It doesn't matter what industry we are in or which part of the world we work in, global supply chains are having to be re-evaluated and reassessed. In many cases, we took decisions some years ago which may no longer be fit for purpose. Ya, banyak keputusan yang kita ambil dulu sudah tidak lagi relevan. So I think this is a good time for us to be taking a fresh look at our supply chain strategy so far. Now, the current conditions have sometimes been described as a VUCA world, VUCA, VUCA. I think most of you have heard of this. V for volatility. There are things are turbulent, right? Turbulent. And as a result, there's a lot of uncertainty. So uncertainty, that's the U in VUCA. Who knows what tomorrow is going to bring? It makes traditional ways of managing, for example, cara kita forecast, cara kita berencana, bikin planning itu, it makes those much more difficult. And much more difficult to run our day-to-day business. We are going to be much more able, I think, to respond rapidly to unexpected changes. And of course, volatility itu and the uncertainty combined will create the next word. That is the C, complexity atau kompleksitas. I guess our supply chains have never been as complex as they are today. And that brings with it an entirely new dimension. So when it comes to managing supply chains, there is that A, ambiguity. Yeah, ambiguity. We can't quite be sure what the signals are telling us. Kalau kita punya demand signal itu apa ini benar atau tidak ya? You know what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening on the supply side, visibility itu being a problem, our supply chains are not always that good. Nah, itu realitasnya. It's like we are operating in a sort of fog, ya, kabus, mist, ya, and not always very clear which direction we should be heading. So that's the sort of backdrop, if you like, yeah, to where we are, and you might say, well, how did we get here? Yeah. As I said, we took a lot of decisions in the 1990s and the early years of this century. And this is not quite really fit for purpose. You know, remember the lean revolution, yeah? Many companies, they started to slim down. They reduce inventories. They seek to maximize their respective capacities. So in order to be efficient. So efficiency was really what it's all about back then. And then at the same time, we were globalizing our supply chain. What was previously largely local for local arrangements now are spanning continents. We outsource a lot of activities we used to do in-house. And this again adds to the complexity of our supply chain. Kalau relationships, yeah, we have far more relationships that we have to manage now compared to in the past. Also, alongside all this, we are also looking at reducing our supply base. We are becoming much more dependent on just a few critical suppliers. And this adds to the risk in our supply chain. Yeah. Nggak usahlah saya bicara lagi tentang cerita-cerita horor ya yang terjadi saat coronavirus itu terjadi, pandemi itu mulai bermula, banyak sekali perusahaan yang sakit ya, yang parah-parah terjadinya. Jadi kalau dulu many companies look at what economies of scale, ya. They look at how to centralize their manufacturing, their production, their distribution, instead of having local arrangements in terms of warehousing, DC-nya, okay? They tend to consolidate to have bigger facilities serving much greater geographies. Di situ kan ada risiko. And so all these things together, I think have created a situation now where our supply chains are increasingly vulnerable. Yeah, vulnerable to what? Vulnerable to disruption and to these unexpected events. Yeah, cuma next slide-nya ya. Now, in this type of situation, buka ya, it's a little unusual maybe that we are seeing uncertainty, not just in the marketplace, and uncertainty in the marketplace is not only on the demand side, ya, bukan saja di permintaan, di demand. You know, we are also seeing uncertainty on the supply side. So you know, whereas in the past maybe we had the power, ya, supplier itu kita sebagai pembeli ya punya power. You know, it was called we used to call the shots, so to speak, and our suppliers had to fall in with what we wanted to do. Now it's often the other way around, but also to the availability of many materials, many critical items isn't always that assured. And so I think we are in a sort of interesting situation where we've got uncertainty both on the demand and on the supply side. And so some experts have offered solutions. Now, what are they? They said, let's build some resilience. Now, itu terminologi resilience itu saya kurang pasti ya. Bahasa Indonesianya apa itu? Resilience. Jadi build some resilience into our supply chain. Bisa bantu teman-teman, resilience itu apa? Bahasa Indonesia.
Ketangguhan.
Ketangguhan ya, ketangguhan. Jadi let's build resilience into our supply chain. Now this is the problem. Orang-orang pakar-pakar di supply chain ini, mereka gampang saja menggunakan terminologi seperti ini, resilience itu. Tapi orang nggak tahu itu apa itu resilience ya. Jadi they say let's have resilience into our supply chain as a buffer, yeah, to buffer all this risk and uncertainty. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Jadi they say build resilience into our supply chain to cope with stress, and to me this has always been a concern. Okay, apa concernnya? Well, if you want to build resilience, it's going to cost money, right? It's like insurance. You know, we spend a lot of money on insurance, and you know, hopefully we never need it. If you know, we insure the house, we insure the car, but it's costing money. And so I think this is the same view that has been taken by some companies about resilience. Right? It's like a trade-off. Jadi, kalau you want to build more resilience into a supply chain, it's going to cost money. But money can be used elsewhere. Should we put it into something that we can't see, that we don't know for sure if the risk is going to be there or not, or should we put it into something tangible? Itu trade-off. Ya. Jadi kenapa mereka berpikir begitu? Karena cash is very, very tight. Ya. Dan efficiency itu is still a concern, and for everyone, mostly they find it difficult, and because of this, they feel that it is a trade-off. Now, but in my view, this shouldn't be a trade-off. Yeah, honestly, kenapa saya berkata begitu ya? I've been in supply chain management for most part of my industrial years. Itu lebih 35 tahun dulu, hampir 40 tahun. Saya di supply chain, dan di supply chain bukan di logistik ya, tapi dari plan, source, make, deliver, return itu saya sudah di sana semua ya. Dan 8 tahun ya, selama 8 tahun itu full time saya devote into designing supply chains for high-tech companies. Jadi kalau menurut saya, kalau ada trade-off ini, itu tidak ada trade-off. Itu adalah keputusan yang kita harus ambil. It should be possible, ya, menurut saya, to structure and design a supply chain architecture, arsitektur rantai pasokan itu, which is both resilient and efficient. Right? Dan I'm going to suggest that the way we do this, and this is where I really want to focus on. Jadi mungkin belum ada orang yang bicara tentang ini ya, tentang konsep to improve agility, ya, kelincahan, ya, the ability to move quickly when things change, when things happen, because I think this is the key to resilience and also the key to efficiency, right? Jadi apa itu agile? Now, sebelum saya bicara tentang agile ini ya, agile ini adalah satu konsep di software development, ya. Tapi saya ini sangat beruntung ya, karena kan saya bilang saya dipaksa pulang ke Singapura selama setahun lebih ya, dan saya bingung sekali kalau di Singapura tuh mau bikin apa ya, nggak bisa bikin apa-apa. Kita ke kiri kanan bergeser dengan tetangga gitu ya, it's so crowded. Jadi saya ambil inisiatif untuk mengenal lebih dekat lagi tentang apa itu agile. Karena saya honestly ya, I don't understand what is agile sebelum ini. Jadi saya enroll di satu kursus untuk disertifikasi tentang agility ini. Dan saya ingin berbagi ya informasi tentang apa itu agile ya. Jadi agile ini seperti saya katakan tadi adalah satu konsep yang diaplikasikan di software development, di dunia software development. Can we have the next slide, the 12 agile principles? Jadi there are 12 agile principles behind the agile manifesto. Mungkin yang ini kalian bisa simak sendiri ya. Yang pentingnya saya ambil 12 prinsip agile ini dan saya aplikasikan ke supply chain. Jadi saya rasa kita diskusi tentang itu karena itu lebih relevan ya. So let's go to the next slide. Okay. So agility ini menjadi kunci untuk kita itu sebagai solusi ya, untuk kita melihat bagaimana kita bisa menjadikan supply chain kita lebih tangguh gitu ya. So just very briefly, what are the characteristics of an agile business? Gitu ya. Apa itu? Kalau perusahaan itu agile itu seperti apa? Well, I guess it's being very close to the marketplace. Itu satu karakteristik ya. You have to be very close to the marketplace to read what's happening. You know, not just the day by day, but hour by hour. Yeah, hour by hour. And new developments in IT are making it possible for us to do this and to use what we now call big data analytics. Jadi kalau orang ini lagi ribut-ribut ya tentang AI, big data, data analytics ini, itu jangan kita tutup sebelah telinga dong. Karena that is real. The uncertainties that are present in today's world will force us to go into this area. Ya, into this area. Ini bukan omong kosong. Ini data analytics ini adalah satu hal yang akan memberi kita satu solusi untuk kesenjangan yang ada ini, kesenjangan yang ada di dunia kita sekarang ini ya. Jadi all this development will make it possible for us to be able to do this and to use what we now call big data analytics. Itu artificial intelligence will help us to interpret those signals that are coming from the marketplace. So that's one of the critical elements of agility. What is it? Getting close to the marketplace, being able to see what's actually happening, but also I'm sharing that information upstream and downstream so kita bisa synchronize across our supply chain. Ya. Jadi tadi saya bilang, kalau 20 tahun sebelumnya kita bicara tentang end-to-end supply chain, kok sekarang kita masih bicara tentang end-to-end supply chain? Apa sudah jadi atau belum? Ya, ya sudah jadi, tapi karena because of the uncertainties, there are new demands for us to move very quickly to create an agile organization so that we are able to see the signals much more clearer. Dan ini tidak ada pilihan lain. We have to go into data analytics, predictive analytics, cognitive procurement itu untuk bisa lebih mengenal ya sinyal yang tidak begitu kelihatan dengan mata kasat. Ya. Jadi not only that is important, but to be able to share those information upstream and downstream. So kenapa ini? Karena kita semua harus march. We will have to march to the same drum beat rather than our suppliers having their forecast. We've got our own forecast. Our customers have got a different forecast. We are all working to the same sort of numbers, and obviously this involves much higher levels of collaborative working together. Ya, tidak bisa kita bekerja dengan pola yang sama gitu. It has to change. We can't achieve this level of synchronization if we don't have a rather different approach as to how we manage those relationships. Those relationships with our suppliers, our suppliers, our customers, and our customers' customers. So I think collaborative working, ya. Kalau dulu kita bilang apa itu ada terminologi itu saya sudah lupa, CPFR, ya masih ingat ya, CPFR, Collaborative Planning, Forecasting, and apa itu lagi ya, saya lupa ya. Itu teori dulu itu, cuma ada beberapa perusahaan yang melakukan itu, tapi sekarang kita ini dipaksa oleh situasi, oleh buka untuk melakukan hal seperti itu. Oke, saya lanjut ya.
Oke, barangkali Prof, kalau ada yang mau bertanya langsung aja di sela ya.
Ya, bisa.
Oke, langsung aja.
Silakan.
Biar bisa tangkap pesannya. Oke,
Ya.
lanjut Prof, mau nggak?
But so far bagaimana nih? Bisa tangkap tak? Saya harus setting karena saya tidak live ya. Tidak live depan orang. Jadi kalau saya secara fisik di depan orang tuh saya bisa sense ya. Tapi sekarang saya nggak tahu nih, bisa tangkap atau gimana? Bisa ya?
Bisa, Prof.
It's fine. Okay. It's fine, sir.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine ya. Oke. Jadi saya lanjut aja ya. Sekarang saya mau bicara tentang konsep ini ya, dynamic capabilities ya. Ini adalah salah satu academic teori. Dan ini satu teori, saya bukan orang teori, tapi ini teori saya percaya. Saya sangat yakin dengan teori ini. And what it is the idea that people call dynamic capabilities. Ya, apa itu? Ya, what it says is that companies who are most likely to succeed today ya, di dunia VUCA ini are those companies who are fastest on their feet. What does that mean? That means they make decisions quickly, they change direction quickly, and they don't have, investments which have been made some years ago in bricks and mortar that have been casted in cement. Ya, kalau kita punya investasi dulu yang besar-besar itu, yang gede-gede itu, ya tidak mungkin ya kita bisa selincah ini. They can't change. Right? It is sort of difficult to do things quickly in a different sort of way. So these organizations that have these capabilities, what the academic theories call dynamic capabilities. a firm who has the ability to integrate, to build and reconfigure internal and external competencies. Okay, competencies ini saya tekankan ya, to address rapidly changing environment. Cuba kita berhenti sejenak ya, dan try to absorb this this concept ini. Yang penting sekarang ini adalah kompetensi. Nah, kalau kita renung sejauh ini ya, orang-orang yang menjadi pemimpin di supply chain ini datang dari mana sih? Mereka datang dari mana? Kebanyakan mereka itu datang dari mana? Dari logistik. Logistik ini adalah bagian kecil dari supply chain. Ya, with all due respect to all the logisticians who have done a remarkable job in tackling the challenges of supply chain management. Yeah, they have done a great job. Daripada logistik, dia move to supply chain management. Dan juga ada orang IT ya, yang dilibatkan di dalam supply chain dan mereka assume leadership roles in supply chain management. Nah, coba kita tanya diri kita sendiri, apakah orang-orang seperti itu cocok untuk address all these issues as a result of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Apa yang dibutuhkan adalah kompetensi baru. Nah, ini kita tidak punya waktu dong. Kan? Sekarang buka ini sudah terjadi. In fact, it has already taken place 5 years ago. Ya, tapi kita belum ready. Nah, tadi going back to the masalah yang Pak Hairul ya bentangkan tadi, ya, di mana itu harus ada pergeseran ya, pemikiran dari transactional ke strategic procurement itu. Kenapa kita punya masih bergelut di domain itu? Karena kompetensinya belum cukup. Nanti saya akan bicara ya di sesi kedua saya itu ada pembahasan tentang bagaimana kita bisa ready ya, kita punya SDM dan kita punya tenaga kerja itu untuk menghadapi masa depan yang ada di depan mata kita ini ya. Jadi ini yang dimaksudkan dynamic capabilities ini. Bagaimana kita bisa membangunkan kompetensi orang-orang untuk menghadapi future itu ya. Saya kasih contoh diri saya sendiri ya, karena saya ini beruntung kan, tadi saya menganggap diri saya beruntung sih. Saya mulai pengalaman saya di tahun akhir 70-an ya, dan langsung saya diceploskan ke dunia pelayaran ya, shipping. Kemudian saya masuk ke manufaktur. Nah, di manufaktur saya bikin shipping, saya bikin ekspor gitu kan, international trading gitu ya. Dan di situ saya juga masuk di satu perusahaan manufaktur. Nah, waktu itu orang tidak kenal apa itu supply chain. Logistik juga orang nggak ngerti apa itu logistik. Yang dia tahu itu distribusi, pergudangan, itu saja yang dia tahu. Tapi saya beruntung karena saya sudah di bermacam fungsi di supply chain itu. Di purchasing, di planning, di marketingnya, di salesnya, di operationsnya, dan di manufacturingnya. Dan juga apabila saya berpengalaman di high tech itu, saya mindset saya dibuka luas untuk melihat ya bagaimana dinamiknya supply chain global itu. Now, question is bagaimana kita bisa punya dynamic capability kalau orang-orang kita itu tidak seperti saya gitu. Ini kenapa? Bukan saya bangga diri, tidak. Tapi saya bertanya ini, kalau sebenarnya kapabilitas seperti apa ya? Orangnya harus seperti saya, sudah kenal apa itu supply chain, apa itu logistik, warehousing, marketing, sales, itu semua saya sudah tangani. Bukan directly ya, itu fungsi, sebagai fungsi itu saya sudah tangani. Sekarang kalau saya lihat itu, kalau ada di satu perusahaan itu ada katakan direktur ya supply chain itu. Kalau saya lihat di backgroundnya cuma warehousing dan logistik. Masa dia bisa paham sih apa persoalan atau permasalahan yang ada di manufacturing gitu? Apakah dia paham di production planning and inventory? Apakah dia paham? Mungkin dia paham sedikit, tapi itu tidak cukup. Sekarang di dunia ini mereka bicara tentang apa? T, ya? T, kapabilitas atau kompetensi T, di mana itu expert di satu bidang tapi harus expert di banyak bidang. Ya, pernah dengar itu kan? Jadi coba kita bicara. Ini SDM kita. Kok nggak paham ini? Langsung ada VUCA, ya. VUCA ini. Jadi untuk menghadapi masa depan yang tidak tentu dan tidak pasti ini, mereka belum siap dong. Ya. Jadi ini sangat penting menurut saya. Jadi next slide ya. Ini companies ya, typically who have got much higher levels of flexibility, yang kita bilang itu lincah itu ya. What I sometimes call structural flexibility. Mereka punya fleksibilitas secara struktural ya. Which means that they are able to reconfigure their supply chain arrangements and they can do this very quickly ya. Jadi kalau satu perusahaan itu punya fleksibilitas struktural, perusahaan seperti apa? Seperti Unilever ya, Unilever itu contoh yang sangat jelas ya. Itu perusahaan yang punya fleksibilitas struktural. Kalau ada perubahan itu dia bisa langsung respon itu ya, dengan cepat itu ya. Coba kita ke next slide ya. Jadi kalau kita kombinasikan ya, kalau structural flexibility itu, dan tadi kita sudah bicara tentang dynamic ya, responsiveness itu harus ada structural flexibility dan dynamic flexibility. Apa itu dynamic flexibility? It is a reflection of the agility ya. Tadi kita bilang agility of the supply chain, particularly its ability to respond rapidly to changes in volume and mix. Kita lihat aja sekarang, itu pharmaceutical, itu apa? Pfizer atau Sinovac itu. Suddenly there is a sudden increase of demand. Tadi saya bilang uncertainty itu ada di demand side. Sekarang ada uncertainty di supply side juga. Itu real kan, sudah terjadi itu. Jadi bagaimana kita mau mengadakan dynamic flexibility ini? Structural flexibility itu ya sebaliknya seperti apa? The ability of supply chain to adapt ya. To adapt, untuk menyesuaikan, to fundamental change. If the center of gravity of the supply chain changes, then the system can also change. Nah ini jelas sekali, perusahaan seperti Unilever, P&G itu, mereka punya structural.
Tadi itu ngomong Selasa tanggal 4 ya.
Mereka punya structural flexibility, tapi mungkin dynamic flexibility-nya belum ada gitu kan. Jadi let's go to the next slide. Bagaimana caranya untuk gain structural flexibility ya. Jadi flexibility ini not necessarily by investing in your own capacity. Karena to be flexible structurally you need to have capacity, benar nggak? Ya, you got to have assets. Tapi sekarang kalau kita nggak punya aset, bagaimana kita mau jadi flexible? The answer is by investing in other people's assets. Makanya tadi saya bilang, ini asset sharing ini adalah konsep baru yang sangat penting, yang bisa menjadi solusi. Dan ini ada beberapa perusahaan di dunia yang sudah move towards this direction, di mana dia punya spare capacity dan mereka menjual capacity mereka. Mereka tidak anggap competitors mereka itu sebagai competitor, tapi sebagai
Suaranya kok hilang?
Sinyalnya mungkin Mbak.
the ability to halo.
Lanjut Pak. Sekarang dengar.
Ya. is the ability to maybe share, to rent, to lease. Okay, we don't have to have our own assets. And I think in today's world, the ability of working across a portfolio of providers who have different capabilities becomes very important. Yeah, it's not just manufacturing capacity or logistic capacity. We are talking about it could be knowledge. Ya, kalau kita nggak punya knowledge, kita leverage other people's knowledge. Kan kalau untuk jadi dynamic capability, saya bilang tadi SDM itu menjadi masalah. But you don't have to have your knowledge. Kan? Kalau you nggak tahu itu ramai orang yang pintar-pintar di luar sana, pakai aja itu. Jadi capacity ini bukan saja di aset fisik, tapi bisa juga di knowledge ya, atau di R&D ya. Kalau R&D ini lebih fleksibel ya untuk kita respon gitu ya. So I'm suggesting there that I think this idea that says we should always be looking for the best use of capacity itu is not going to be a problem karena capacity itu memang ada ya. Physical asset, knowledge asset, R&D asset itu ada, dan banyak perusahaan sudah moving towards that area. Di mana dia lihat sekarang punya permintaan ini sudah hilang ya. Saya punya capacity ini, apa saya bilang jual capacity itu ya. So this is driving our thinking ya for a long time ya. Accountants will say if you've got idle capacity, yeah, that's bad news. Well, I think actually in today's world, having the ability to access capacity, whatever that capacity may be, is actually a really powerful source of competitive advantage. Yeah, jadi because it enables us to take advantage of the uncertainty in this world. Often, yeah, we think when we talk about uncertainty and risk, it's all bad news. Well, actually, those companies who are able to capitalize on the opportunities presented by risk and uncertainty are the ones who typically are going to be the winners. Ya. Jadi kita pause dulu, ada pertanyaan mungkin?
Mungkin Pak.
Halo?
Yes, I have two questions, sir.
Ya, silakan bahasa Indonesia aja.
Yeah, the first questions, as you said that it is slightly difficult to read the real demand signal. Could you suggest the way of the company to determine the things they have to own or outsource in the context of balancing efficiency and responsiveness? And the second questions, for the future of the procurement in the government and private sectors, do you think they are going to be stay away or they are going to be more much?
Okay, sorry, can you repeat the second question because it was cut off just now? Tolong diulangi pertanyaan yang kedua itu tadi karena cut off ya. Halo?
Halo Pak Haris, boleh diulangi lagi pertanyaannya?
Yeah, okay, let me answer the first question, right? How do you solve the problem of not being able to detect the signals earlier on? In other words, how to be more predictive. Now, ini a difficult question to ask because it very much to answer because it very much depends on where you are right now, right? If you are, sorry, I use the word immature. Yeah, supply chain ini ada mature supply chain, ada immature supply chain. So if you are in a very immature position, definitely you cannot leverage apa yang you punya in terms of assets to get there very quickly. So here I would suggest that you leverage on other people's knowledge. Orang yang sudah sudah ada di situ. Dan di sini harus ada investasi. Jadi in future, I think it's no longer a case of investing in physical assets but on knowledge assets. Jadi beli ya atau sewa otak-otak orang yang sudah punya pengalaman di area itu. That is the fastest way to basically bridge the gap ya, for you to be able to understand. Of course, kalau you are already mature ya, seperti perusahaan seperti apa ya, katakan seperti Unilever itu mereka sudah punya ample information in terms of data ya. Itu tinggal mereka implementasi data analytics capability, and it doesn't take them long to be able to do that, okay, and to be able to run their supply chain no longer on Excel spreadsheets but on predictive analytics. Predictive analytics ini seperti apa? Ini predictive analytics ini bisa mendeteksi pattern ya, pattern pola konsumsi, pola pemakaian segala macam untuk membantu kita untuk membuat satu keputusan ya. I hope that answers the first question. Does that answer the question? Okay, I presume that answers the question since I got no reply from you. Can you please repeat the second question, because just now the audio was cut off when you were talking. Gak ada ya?
Ramlee.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting to see your presentation, terutama on the agile supply chains ya. Yeah, this is very innovative concept, but in implementation need strong trust level from all stakeholders. Karena saya ngelihat key-nya adalah collaboration stakeholders sebenarnya.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Mungkin based on your experience, Pak, how we can leverage or how we can improve the trust level among stakeholders, because become the biggest challenge also on us ya. Kalau kita berbicara pengadaan, talking about procurement, most of the procurement policy and guideline we have now showing untrusted situation, you know.
Yeah.
It's always suspicious for every stakeholders on, even though the situation may be demanded previous situation, you know. So we are trapped with the situation where we are preventing the previous unaccepted practice, but on the other way, we have also to improve the way we collaborate in the future, because this is the key for the agile supply chains. Gimana Pak Ramlee?
Correct, gini. Jadi ini, let me put another question to you ya. Jadi kita renungkan bersama gitu. If you are caught within the devil and the deep blue sea, which one do you choose? You choose the devil or the deep blue sea? Kalau deep blue sea itu Anda vulnerable sekali, langsung lemas kan. Tapi kalau devil ini masih punya harapan ini kan. Mungkin iman kita atau apa itu kita masih bisa lawan kan. Benar nggak? Jadi the question is kesadaran lah ya. Saya maybe I'm talking 30,000 feet, but look, the reality is that you are facing this kind of situation right now. You have no choice. Dulu kalau Bapak remember ya, dulu kita bicara tentang apa tahu? Tentang jumping from one stage of supply chain maturity to another stage of maturity. Ingat nggak dulu? Ada stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. Jadi kalau kita di stage 1 itu, kita nggak bisa masuk ke stage 3. Orang-orang expert dulu bilang, guru-guru dulu bilang, harus lewati stage 2 dulu, kemudian stage 3, sampai ke stage 4. Tapi
Yeah.
this concept, this theory sudah tak berlaku lagi sekarang. Ya, no, persoalannya, what are we going to do? Jadi kalau belum sadar itu, kalau sadar itu langsung dapat kejutan kan, daripada tidak sadar sampai sadar. Tadi ada bicara tuh tentang what to do. Saya cuma bukan pengambil kebijakan, ini kan pengambil kebijakannya yang harus disadarkan gitu. So what I'm saying is that kalau kita, mohon maaf sekali ya, kalau kita di Indonesia nih kita masih bergelut atau we are still complacent dengan thinking that well this is Indonesia, we are so diverse, culture kita begini, kita susah mau berubah lah, kita harus pelan-pelan lah. You have no choice, my friend. Kalau you mau gitu, kalau Indonesia ini is an island, it's okay, but supply chains are still very global, my friend. Jadi barang-barang yang you beli itu bukan datang dari Indonesia, itu datang dari luar, dari itu. Mereka sudah change. Kalau you tidak change, bagaimana? Jadi ini adalah satu point of no return, kalau menurut saya, untuk kita mendatangkan paradigm shift itu dengan urgency, ya, dengan urgency lagi. Kita nggak bisa itu. Kalau orang nggak tahu apa itu agile, ya, force yourself to know what is agile. Karena that is the way people are responding, gitu kan? Kalau kita belum tahu apa itu industri 4.0 gitu ya, ya tahu implikasi industri 4.0 itu ke supply chain seperti apa, so that you can start doing initiatives. Jadi di area ini Pak Sony, itu penting sekali tadi saya bilang itu peningkatan kompetensi. Tapi kalau kita mau mengembangkan kompetensi itu, kita butuh kesadaran dulu. Jangan kita enak ya bilang, oh kita di Indonesia ya sulit lah. Jadi let's status quo aja gitu kan. Ini satu perjuangan dong. Ya nggak? Jadi kalau saya lihat diri saya tidak senang sih. Orang bicara agile, saya nggak ngerti apa agile. Jadi saya datangkan kesadaran dulu. Saya going find out apa itu agile. Oh agile begini. Sekarang saya certified agile coach. Kan? Itu PMP, Pak. PMP itu mohon maaf sekali. Ini juga untuk mendatangkan kesadaran. PMP itu sudah kadaluarsa. Orang sudah nggak lihat di situ. Mereka lihat di agile, di Scrum. Dan ini bukan software development. Ini adalah untuk mendatangkan solusi untuk sebuah bisnis, untuk bertahan.
It's a conceptual thinking.
Ya, no more conceptual thinking gitu kan. Jadi itulah yang saya ingin tekankan itu. Kalau kita lihat ini kesenjangan yang paling menantang buat kita ini bukan birokrasi, bukan apa, tapi kesadaran dan kompetensi workforce kita itu. Apakah workforce kita ini sudah punya kompetensi, punya ilmu itu. Tadi kan kita bicara tentang ilmu. Pengadaan ini ada ilmu, sudah tentu ada ilmunya. Ya, tetapi pengadaan itu bagian dari supply chain. Jadi untuk meningkatkan kompetensi ini, orang ini yang kita butuh untuk masa depan ini harus punya kekuatan di operational, di technical, di teori, dan di data, Pak. Gitu kan? Nah, kalau dunia sudah berubah dan kita masih di 30 km per jam gitu kan, di mana orang lain sudah 100 km per jam gitu ya. Jadi sangat urgent ini.
Thanks, Pak.
I hope I've answered your question. Saya nggak punya solusi, tapi
this is a big challenge for that.
Ya. Jadi bisa ya saya masih ada waktu nih ya. Saya bagi pengalaman sedikit lah ya. Waktu saya berkolaborasi dengan Kementerian Desa, waktu itu belum menteri sekarang ini, lupa saya namanya siapa ya. Tapi dulu Pak Eko ya, Pak Eko lah Putra Sanjaya yang jadi menteri desa itu. Now he is entrepreneur, right? Jadi dia bilang sama saya, kita di kementeriannya harus bergegas lah untuk mengadopsi ilmu-ilmu yang ada itu. So I work very closely with Kementerian Desa itu untuk menyadarkan mereka ya, ini yang terjadi, ini yang harus dilakukan itu. Dan unfortunately waktu itu sudah habis ya untuk Pak Eko itu. Tapi sekarang Menteri Desa sekarang ini dia masih hold the baton gitu ya. Dia masih teruskan perjuangan itu di kalangan SDM di Kementerian Desa. Jadi harapan kita itu apa yang kita lakukan sekarang, kesadaran yang kita bentangkan kepada pembuat kebijakan ini bisa move us in the right direction to adopt all these new concepts gitu kan. Karena kalau tidak kita ketinggalan besar, dan Indonesia ini terlalu kaya untuk kita biarkan orang lain overtake us gitu ya. Ada lagi pertanyaan? No, saya baru lihat ini slide-nya ini sudah jauh ke depan, jadi bisa kita ini mundur dikit ya, mundur lagi. Lagi ini terlalu ke depan ini. Lagi. Mundur lagi. Lagi. Ini. Ya, tadi itu. Industri ya, yang industri 4.0 basic. Ya, kita mulai di sini. Satu lagi, maju. Ya, ini ya. Oke. Tadi kan saya bicara tentang industri 4.0 ini. Apa itu industri 4.0? So this is an emerging issue, right? Industry 4.0 is getting a lot of attention today in supply chain management, right? It's the sort of revolution in how we manage man-machine interface, ya. Kalau bahasa apa umumnya itu industri 4.0 ini man-machine interface antara orang dengan mesin, ya. Itu industri 4.0, ya. And obviously using IT and particularly how we capture information, ya Pak Sony, ini bisa jadi solusi dong, ya. Dan solusi ini tidak sulit untuk kita dapatkan gitu kan, ya. Using IT and how we capture information as close to real time as possible so that we can use things like artificial intelligence gitu ya. And as I mentioned before, to interpret the information and to help us make better decisions and to anticipate possibly a customer requirement, ya. Jadi itu industri 4.0. Apa dia? Enhanced visibility. Jadi kalau sekarang kita nggak punya visibility, kita harus punya visibility gitu. Kalau kita ada transparansi gitu ya, ya kan susah. Tapi kalau tidak kita mati, kita masuk ke deep blue sea dong. Kalau ini devil, mendingan kita lawan sama devil gitu ya. Integration across boundaries through shared information. Kita itu tadi trust Pak Sony bilang, itu kan kita nggak gampang mau sharing information, ya. Harus ada trust dan proses alignment. Dan big data analytics itu is a must because that is what you call it, the thing that is already here is not even in the future, it's already here. Dan management of man-machine interface, which is important. Okay, let's go to the next slide, yeah. What are the implications of Industry 4.0 for supply chain? Yeah, I think this is going to reshape the whole architecture of our supply chain. Industry 4.0, it will reshape our supply chain in a way we talk about supply chain, but it's been a supply chain for a long time. Kalau kita bicara supply chain ini, di pikiran kita ini supply chain ini sangat linear. Dari supplier ke distributor ke manufacturer Gambaran kita standar seperti itu. Tapi sebenarnya supply chain itu lebih kompleks dari itu. Jadi apa yang kita harus bicara ada ekosistem. Supply chain ini sebenarnya adalah satu ekosistem ya. It becomes an ecosystem. Dia bukan linear lagi. Ya. Jadi how do you manage a complex ecosystem? It's essentially to have connectivity. Itu harus terkoneksi. Ya. And supply chain managers no longer becomes apa ya kata orang a doer of a function. No longer. You need to become a orchestra conductor. You tahu, ini kalau terlalu cepat, ya, di slow down. Kalau yang ini terlalu lambat gitu, ya, didorong dong, ya. Jadi seorang supply chain manager itu harus menjadi seorang orchestrator, gitu ya. Kita bicara tentang future dong, ya. Jadi kita bicara future supaya kita sadar bukan karena ini terlalu tinggi untuk kita capai, tidak, tapi ini adalah satu esensi yang kita harus ada. It's becoming a given. No more quality, no more customer experience atau apa, tapi you need to have this, ya. Jadi because it has become an ecosystem, so you have to function as one interconnected system. Okay, not as separate entities. And this becomes a real challenge, I agree, because for many years, for centuries even, we've been used to sort of working as independent. And now we are saying, no, it doesn't work like that anymore. We've got to find a way to go across those boundaries in order to be able to survive. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Jadi, cuba kita lihat. We're challenging a lot of mindsets gitu ya of the past. Dari lean, dari agile, kemudian ada legile. Legile ini lean and agile. Kemudian kita harus mencapai nirwana itu, yaitu menjadi sangat adaptif ya. Jadi lebih kompleks itu lebih sulit lah, lebih sulit. Kalau on both sides itu it's bad news. On the left side, you have increasing turbulence. On the right side, you have increasing complexity. And I don't have the time to explain to you what the agile methodology or what the agile mindset is. Tapi mungkin satu hari nanti kita bisa punya kesempatan untuk discuss itu. Tapi there is only one methodology in the world right now that can that can solve increasing turbulence sama increasing complexity. Tidak ada metodologi lain selain agile. Ya, ini is a testament from all the experts in supply chain in the world. Ya, cuma ada satu metodologi itu yang bisa ini. Kalau di Indonesia ini masih agile movement ini masih belum heboh lagi lah. Jadi saya harap dengan kehadiran saya ini saya bisa mendatangkan kesadaran. Kalau dulu waktu saya baru-baru ke Indonesia dulu, orang nggak kenal logistik apa. Apalagi supply chain, kan nggak kenal langsung. Jadi saya datang langsung heboh-heboh, orang mulai sadar sih. Jadi insya Allah harapan saya di sini kita bisa respon, ya, kita bisa kenal apa itu agile. Ya. Jadi ini changing focus di supply chain kita. How is this brought about? It is brought about by Industry 4.0 itu. Jadi kalau jangan bilang kita sudah di Industry 4.0 di mana supply chain masih version 2 gitu ya. Itu is not going to work ya. Jadi in order for you to be flexible and responsive at the same time, you need to focus in the area of education management. Yeah, education really has to move. It's how to do sort of develop a different sort of manager that is capable of looking across the boundaries and taking a broader view and understanding of how complex systems work. And I think it is going to be a real sort of interesting period. And I know you always say it's not just about the downside of the risk, it's also about upside of the risk. Jadi itu sangat penting. Education itu penting. Tadi saya bilang, kalau dulu orang nggak kenal apa itu logistik, tapi itu ada education tuh. Saya bergabung sama Ali, kita lakukan education and ya itu sudah gampang lah. Sekarang where we are ini saya sangat bangga karena banyak anak-anak murid saya ya, so to speak, itu sekarang sudah jadi supply chain leaders di Indonesia gitu ya. So ini adalah period atau era baru ya untuk kita face the future. Jadi untuk kita dari lean ini, kalau kita sudah lean ini, kita move ke agile ini. Ini bisa membantu lah ya, bisa membantu. Kemudian karena kita sudah invest di lean, kita harus ke tahap yang berikutnya, itu lean dan agile. Ya, lean itu very cost effective, agile itu very responsive gitu ya. Oke, let's go to the next slide. Jadi kalau saya ya, saya seperti seorang pesimis gitu ya. Tapi sebenarnya saya sangat optimistik deh. Ya, even though we are faced with so many challenges at this moment, I think those who are prepared to invest in what? In supply chain design and supply chain talent. Ya, supply chain design itu ekspertis saya ya. Harus invest di supply chain design dan supply chain talent, skills development. Okay, all these people who are not afraid to invest in this world is going to come out, okay, out of this crisis looking fairly good. Kata Charles Darwin, it's not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Okay. Easy move ya, karena sudah tak ada waktu. Berapa banyak waktu saya punya? Berapa minit lagi?
10 menit lagi, Prof.
Oke.
Ada 10 menit lagi, boleh buat diskusi, silakan.
Ya. Jadi kita let's reimagine the future supply chain workforce ya. So as the supply chain goes digital and automated, the traditional role will change, and we know new ones will emerge. And with a growing emphasis upon decision making, we need people who can balance between between data and operations gitu ya. So you need to know everything. Itu T type of people. Organizations will increasingly, okay, access capabilities from a wide range of assortment of capabilities. For example, kita harus berani sewa, okay, workers and partners as well. Managers must embrace far more diverse set of individuals. Kalau dulu kita bilang, oh, kamu supply chain manager ya, pengalaman kamu di supply chain ya. Saya mau tahu itu, kamu kenal data nggak? Kamu kenal agile nggak? Itu harus jadi, karena kita nggak mampu, jadi kita harus mencari orang yang mampu. That's the fastest way we can go forward, ya. And thirdly, to digitize and manage knowledge so that kita bisa retain intellectual property kita. Ya. Jadi, what kind of revolution needs to take place in the workplace? Ya, of course, automation, ya, otomatisasi untuk transformasi supply chain kita. Factories and warehouses are already being populated by robots, drones, autonomous vehicles. Mereka pakai sensor, pakai automatic controlling untuk inventory, untuk heating, untuk lighting, untuk security even. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, you've heard of all this. Cognitive algorithms, ya, mungkin Anda belum kenal, tapi harus find out dong, harus kenal ini. They are increasingly carrying out demand planning and ordering. Jadi tadi persoalannya itu bagaimana mau sense the signal itu. Itu ada toolsnya. It is called cognitive algorithm. Chatbots, social media apps, they are all taking over customer service. Ya, itu yang jelas sekali ya. Jadi supply chain and logistics management ini will shift towards a hybrid role, ya. And a hybrid role that involves digital technology and data science. Jadi seorang supply chain manager of the future needs to understand digital technology and needs to understand data science. Ya, jadi kalau kita mau cari talent in the future, no longer kita cari talent di operation, tapi kita cari talent dari mana? Gaming companies. Itu perusahaan gaming itu, developers of gaming software. Karena mereka paham sangat ini artificial intelligence dan itu. Dan kita train dia di operations dan mereka bisa bantu kita. Begitu. Ya. Jadi sebagai penutup ya, ini apa paradigma yang dibutuhkan untuk apa? Untuk pergeseran daripada transaksional ke strategik ini memang membutuhkan banyak effort ya. Tapi seperti sebelumnya, waktu saya pertama kali datang ke Indonesia, it is possible. Ya, kita sekarang diambang, ya, di mana it's a point of no return. Ya, you either move forward or you die, gitu kan? Jadi tak ada opsi lain dong, move forward. Tapi ya, what is important is for us to make a decision. That kita sadar kita harus ngebut, gitu ya. Jadi jangan tunggu lagi, harus ngebut. Dan kita di Combank Learning Institute ini punya expert luar biasa sekali. Kita punya kapabilitas yang luar biasa. Kita punya akses ke kapasitas di luar negeri, ya, melalui IAPI, SM, melalui semua afiliasi dan kolaborasi dengan berbanyak organisasi di luar. Kita punya kapabilitas di dalam negeri ini untuk membantu kalian. Makanya salah satu tujuan untuk Combank Learning Institute ini adalah untuk mereduce ya kesenjangan ini, kesenjangan tentang antara kompetensi di masa depan dengan kompetensi sekarang. Bagaimana kita gap itu? Ya, terima kasih. Saya rasa sampai di sini aja pembicaraan saya. Mungkin kita bisa diskusi lanjut ya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.